Well, strong close is what we had on Wall Street. All the three indices ending with good gains. The Dow actually came off the high point of the day. At one point of time, it was holding with a gain of close to around 250 points odd. What really drove the Dow yesterday was we had three earnings coming in from the Dow components, and all of them really beat street estimates. So all three of them, IBM, P&G and United Technologies, put them together, they account for nearly around 10% on the Dow, and they were surging in trade. So that's what helped the Dow end higher. In terms of the European markets, well, trade tensions, that continues to weigh on the United States as well as on China. That's why we had all the three European indices that ended in the red. Two stocks were in focus. British retailer Carrefour came out with its set of numbers. Looked pretty good. That stock was surging in trade. But on the flip side, Metro Bank, the British lender, that came out with a set of numbers. It didn't look good at all. The stock was down more than 35%. It's a smaller bank, but it had a ripple effect on the FTSE components, and that's why the FTSE was a big underperformer in yesterday's trading session. But we had commentary coming in yesterday, and in fact, they had the British Trade Secretary who said that there's a good chance of securing an agreement. That's Britain securing an agreement with the European Union, and he said that, in fact, he believes that they're on schedule to leave the bloc by March 29th. So that was about the European markets. But if we're looking at the Asian markets today, the Nikkei is a relative underperformer. The dollar-yen continues to hold at around the 109.5 odd mark. But otherwise, it's pretty much a mixed bag. Most of those Asian markets trading with moves of around 0.2%. Key monitorables, the dollar index has weakened. Yesterday, it was at 96.3. Today, it's come down to around 96. And Brent crude prices continue to hold below the $61 per barrel. Finally, SGX Nifty, taking everything into account, is indicating a bit of a positive start. Back to you guys.
Thanks a lot for that, Nigel. I mean, we should note that Brent has moved towards 60, and that's singly a very important point for Indian stocks and the Indian economy. So I'm not surprised that Brent, the SGX Nifty is following that indicator rather than anything else.
Now it is in positive territory for what it is worth, so let's see how things play out. Let's get you some more global voices from Davos then. JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon has said that the US economy is like a ship trying to navigate its way through difficult waters. It could hit a slowdown or even a recession, and going into day 33 of the government shutdown, he adds that it is high time lawmakers resolve the situation.
The US economy is kind of like a ship. It's going X the shutdown 2 to 2.5%, and that's going to keep on going for a while. Then you have all this other noise, okay? Geopolitical noise, Brexit noise, what's the Fed going to do? I'll talk about that in a second. Shutdown, trade, and they're kind of like boiling the waters in front of that ship. So eventually that may very well cause a slowdown or a recession. And I don't know if it's 2020 or 2021, but the range of possibilities is broader. And the range of bad outcomes is increasing.
Yeah, but if something really good happens, you get a tailwind. If we did something,
yes, yeah.
So then it's not 2 to 2.5. Then we're back to maybe 3.
It's possible, and I think the Fed will look at what's going on. I mean, my guess is they'll probably pause now. But if they raise rates again in 6 months or so because we're growing at 2.5%, that's still a good thing. If it lasted the whole quarter, it could make growth zero. Now I don't actually know. We all think it's kind of a hockey stick that actually exponentially gets worse as people stop spending money and restaurants don't get money and they don't spend, and vendors, and we just don't know. We've tried to figure it out, but it's not a plus. It's just not a plus out there. I thought the president actually moved a little bit. Well, he spoke about $5.7 billion. Part of that was, I think, like $1.5 billion was things that Democrats wanted. Everyone wants the DACA to stay. You can argue 3 years permanently, but to me, there's the makings of a deal, and they should make a deal because it's going to get worse for the American public.
Okay, that's a very important voice saying that the global slowdown is very real. And of course, we had World Bank and IMF also corroborating that with their numbers. Let's wind up this segment by telling you what one grand old man of the Indian economy is talking about or is opining about the budget, agri schemes that are expected in the budget, and of course, whether the Reserve Bank capital will be used for all these purposes. That's C. Rangarajan, former RBI governor. We'll take a break after that and come back.
The assumption is that the farmer who gets this supplemental income will utilize it in agriculture in some way, and therefore he will work towards somewhat increasing the productivity. But I believe that that may not happen, and therefore one has to look at the productivity increase. And one of the points that I had made in one of the recent articles is that really the average size of holding is coming down so sharply. And the average size of the holding now is 1 hectare, which is about 1.4 acres. That is not going to give enough income to anybody. of that, with a land holding of that size, even if productivity increases. My own feeling is that the budget, the interim budget, will announce some important measures, but leave it there without really incorporating it into the budget. In which case, the announced fiscal deficit for the coming year 2019-20 may not be that high. Even if one were to say that it is overcapitalized, the way to reduce that capital is not that easy. I mean, I think it will involve sale of assets and so on, which is which effects also will have to be taken into account. All that can be said is that if they come to the conclusion that it is overcapitalized, that in subsequent years, the Reserve Bank of India need not provide for so much for the reserves and release the money to the government. Therefore, that way the government can get more, but not, in my view, by trying to reduce the capital.